If you would ask me how I would describe Matteson, Illinois, I would say abandoned retail building after abandoned retail building after abandoned retail building. Otherwise, the suburb is alright. Depending on the traffic, Matteson is anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes southwest of downtown Chicago. It's on the fringes of suburbia, as I like to say. Head southwest on I-57 and you're only a few miles away from being in the land of never-ending cornfields. Matteson is optically one of the nicer South Cook County suburbs. If you want to see bad, I've made videos on Harvey, Ford Heights, Chicago Heights, and other places, so you can go check those out through my Chicago Suburbs playlist that is linked down below. Matteson has a few homes with Cook County board-up stamps, but for the most part, it looks pretty nice. That's until you get to the retail sector near the Lincoln Highway and I-57 interchange. While they tore down the Lincoln Mall quite some time ago, just a giant field of pavement, if you will, they made sure to leave this sign up over here. That was nice of them. Lincoln Mall. The Carson sign is still up too, reminding everyone of what used to be here. Today it looks like you could set up a paintball park here. Maybe an annual summer festival where they bring in Ferris wheels and all kinds of other janky fair rides. The Lincoln Mall was the first enclosed shopping mall that was built in the south suburbs. First opening on August 9, 1973, the mall had over 1 million square feet, with JCPenney, Montgomery Ward, Weebolt's, and Carson's anchoring the mall that had over 100 stores. Here's some satellite imagery of the Lincoln Mall site over the years. The mall started to decline in the 80s when Weebolt's closed, leaving the mall with 3 anchor stores. Sears was able to take the 4th anchor store slot in 1995, but it was only 4 years later when Montgomery Ward's closed their Lincoln Mall store, setting the mall back to having only 3 anchor stores. In 2000, JCPenney closed their store inside the mall, leaving it with only 2 anchor stores, and that's when things began to decline here fast. In 2007, the 4-lane access road was built around the backside of the mall, with the new retail zoning on the opposite side of the road from the mall. The owners at the time also opened a multi-screen theater inside the mall, along with demolishing the section of the mall where both Montgomery Ward and JCPenney used to be. That same year, both Target and JCPenney opened up stores along the access road outside of the enclosed mall. That investment effort didn't last long, however, as Sears closed their store in 2012, leaving the Lincoln Mall with only 1 anchor store. At this point, most of the stores throughout the mall were vacant, and most of the mall ended up closing, with Carson's remaining as a standalone store. Demolition of the remaining mall began in 2017, with Carson's being the only store left, until 2018, when Carson's abruptly closed. Demolition of the mall was completed in 2019. The Lincoln Mall is only a small part, yet it's the highlight of a larger failed retail corridor. In 1991, both a Walmart and a Sam's Club opened up nearby the mall, followed by a Best Buy in 1992, followed by a Circuit City in 1994. All of those stores were located right outside of the mall along either Cicero Avenue or Lincoln Highway. In 2004, Circuit City was the first of that group of big box stores to close. In 2012, Best Buy closed. In 2016, Walmart closed, but in Walmart's case, they opened up a newer store in Olympia Fields, a few miles to the east. Now on to 2018, which was probably the worst blow that this area has seen. Not only did the last store left of the Lincoln Mall close in Carson's, but Sam's Club also closed, along with Target and Toys R Us. So that was 4 big box stores that closed within a 1-mile radius that year. I'll continue to show you around this retail area for the next several minutes of the video, but way back along this street here was an LA Fitness that appeared to close sometime in late 2023 to early 2024, but yeah, things just don't look good for the future of this area. There's a Sherwin-Williams around, so if you need to paint your house and you live in Matteson, you're still in luck there. There's still a Menards, a Home Depot, a PetSmart, and the Walmart that's a few miles to the east, but mostly what's left is a collection of lower-end stores like Foot Locker, Dollar Tree, some discount liquor stores. There's still some bank branches, cell phone service stores, tire shops, a few car dealerships, some nicer mid-range restaurant chains like Panera Bread and Olive Garden that are overshadowed by a bunch of crappier restaurant chains like Subway, Wendy's, and McDonald's. There's a few decent hotels actually, like a Holiday Inn and a Hampton Inn, Additionally, there are several large suburban office buildings here, but even a lot of the office buildings in Matteson have high vacancy rates. The old Sam's Club building is being used as a distribution center. JCPenney is still here, of course. We're on that weird little circle loop thing that goes around the backside of what used to be the Lincoln Mall. They built it in 2007 as a part of a redevelopment plan, but it's hard to see this one standing here much longer. Target was back here as well, and they closed their store in 2018 once again. And Target is one of the more successful big box chains that's been able to stick around through this retail crash that we've been seeing over the last decade. They probably saw what was going on here, or maybe their Matteson location just wasn't profitable, so it's hard to see JCPenney surviving back here for much longer. There's not that much traffic that goes through on this weird little circle loop thing. There's no reason for anyone to go back here unless they're going to JCPenney, or unless you're trying to beat traffic at the intersection of Cicero and Lincoln Highway. Otherwise, yeah, no reason to be back here. At the time of me filming this, yeah, no idea what this used to be. Maybe a Target? Not quite sure. This was indeed a Target. That's right, there are 2 abandoned Target stores in Matteson. This particular one is on the west side of Cicero Avenue, just south of where the Lincoln Mall used to be. It's located next to a Menards and a Pep Boys. This one was built sometime in the mid to late 90s, but it didn't last long as Target moved to the location on the weird circle loop thing around the Lincoln Mall in 2007. Both stores had a lifespan of only 10 years, give or take. So what's the deal with all of these abandoned retail stores in Matteson, you're asking? This is complete speculation on my part, but it's educated speculation at that, as the village of Matteson is in Rich Township. Both Matteson and Rich Township implement high taxes on top of the already high Cook County and Illinois state taxes, which is the case with essentially every Cook County suburb. You get taxed by not only the municipality that you're in, but also by the township that you're in, plus the county, plus the state. But since residential property taxes are much more available than commercial property taxes are, let's compare Matteson residential property taxes with some other nearby communities. An article from South Cook News in 2018 highlights how property owners in Matteson, on average, had a property tax bill that was more than 3 times the national average. Here's a map of home listings in Matteson at the time of me uploading this video. Based off of a quick look at this map, let's say that the average home price is $250,000. According to the South Cook News article, the property tax bill for a Matteson resident in 2018 was 3.9% of the home's value. Not 3.9% of the assessed value, but 3.9% of the home's value. If that rate is still the same, 3.9% of a home that's valued at $250,000 in Matteson would be a property tax bill of $9,750 per year. Yeah, no thanks on that. Now, Zillow isn't completely accurate, but it's close enough. Here's a home in Matteson along with the estimated property tax bill, and here's a home 30 minutes east in Merrillville, Indiana, that is listed for the same price. In case you're blind, that's a $6,200 property tax bill in Matteson, Illinois versus an $800 property tax bill for the same size of house in Merrillville, Indiana. You tell me which one you'd rather live in. I think I heard you through the screen. I think you said Merrillville. Yeah. Speaking of Merrillville, over there's another retail corridor, also along Lincoln Highway, near an interstate exit, and it's a lot more full than the one is here in Matteson. Now, I know that I just compared home property taxes and not commercial property taxes, which, once again, commercial property taxes are much harder to find, but you can assume that it's a similar ratio. Residential property tax gets a lot of publicity in this state, but I know from talking with some people in the area that small business owners in Cook County are hit with even higher property tax bills than the residents are. So when a village or other form of municipality, such as Matteson or Rich Township, implements their own tax hikes on top of what the state and county are already implementing, the final tax bill can be quite a burden. Another visual to add credibility to my speculation would be the Brookside Marketplace shopping area that's about 4.5 miles northwest of the retail area in Matteson. Brookside Marketplace has a super Target, a Best Buy, a Kohl's, Home Goods, Michael's, Ross, PetSmart, TJ Maxx, Sierra, and other stores that can't fit on the sign. Here's a map of the Brookside Marketplace area. Harlem Avenue serves as the county boundary for a small stretch over here. Now, it seems to me as if the Brookside Marketplace was intentionally developed to be right on the edge of Will County with the idea of serving a large populated area of both extreme southwest Cook County and east central Will County. This way, retailers can get the benefit of filling some of the demand for the heavily populated Cook County to the east without having to pay Cook County taxes. Will County's property taxes are significantly lower than they are in Cook County, although not as low as they are in Indiana. But once again, here's a $250,000 home in Matteson with an estimated tax bill, and here's an equally valued home in Frankfort, which is in Will County, along with its estimated tax bill. In Matteson's case, all of the declining retail buildings in this area only raised the residential property taxes even more to help make up for the loss in revenue that the municipality would have collected if all of these storefronts were occupied. Given all of this, I'm surprised that Matteson hasn't seen a population decline over the last few decades, and I'd be surprised if it doesn't start to see one soon. There's a few more storefronts to look at here. This is the Matteson Town Center Shopping Center, which isn't much of a center of anything anymore. It's certainly not a town center, more like storefronts that need a serious facelift center. Yeah, that's more accurate. This last one, it looks like a Chuck E. Cheese used to be here. It's hard to know what the future is for this area. The village's website has this tab here where it shows the village's comprehensive plan, a map of Matteson's accomplishments, I guess, along with a map of new developments. Scrolling down further, it seems as if Matteson is flexing on their investments to fast food joints and to Family Dollar of all things. I guess it's hard to find positives when all of your retailers leave. Still not sure if I would be bragging about a McDonald's, Burger King, or Family Dollar though. Anyway, I looked at the map for new developments. Up top it says that there's a potential 2,000 jobs plus. It looks as if this map is a little bit outdated. The Amazon Fulfillment Center is up and running, so that's good at least. Mannheim has a large facility over by Amazon as well, and there's a lot of jobs to be had out there. Plus, there's a few other distribution centers near the interstate with Sam's Club and Sherwin-Williams. When it comes to redeveloping the Lincoln Mall site, there's not really a current plan in place. A lot of ideas have been thrown out there, but nothing has yet been set in stone. Matteson was fighting with the nearby suburb of Homewood for a new casino, but Homewood won that battle. Now the village seems to want to make some sort of new town center, calling for 2 million square feet of space for retail shops, restaurants, and businesses, along with over 600 residential units. My question is, what makes them think that they'll be able to succeed with that, especially when you have all these shopping centers that are out here today and they can't fill their vacancies as is? I mean, do you really think that Matteson can fill 2 million square feet of retail space if they just build new buildings? I don't. And that's why I don't think this plan will ever go through. At least, not with the way that it's currently envisioned. Well, the massive retail stores have abandoned Matteson. It still has a downtown. I mean, sort of. Matteson's little downtown area is exactly that. A little downtown area. A very little downtown area. A small collection of neat-looking buildings with a slightly larger collection of neat-looking houses and a metro station for those who commute to downtown Chicago, so that's all good and dandy. Here's the population history of Matteson. The place didn't start to see growth until the mid-1950s or so, with the population really taking off around 1980. The city saw another growth spurt from 2000 to 2010, despite that being around the time of all the retail disappearing from the area. Fast forward now to 2024, and the population has declined some since the last census. According to the latest estimate, it's a decline of nearly 1,000 people, or a loss of 4.1%. The median household income is slightly above average, being at $88,000 per year. 40% of adults 25 and older hold a bachelor's degree or higher, and the median value of owner-occupied housing units is $226,000, while the poverty rate is 10.9%. On to the crime rates now, as both the violent and property crime come in around average, so that's not bad at all. It's really not that bad of a place to live outside of the property taxes. That is by far and away the worst thing about living in Matteson, is that property tax bill that you will have to pay. The downtown area somewhat makes Matteson unique, but not really, because it's not really all that big and there's not really all that much going on here. I'd like to see the community do more with this little downtown area because, to me, it seems like it has the potential to offer more than it does currently. On to the history for Matteson, as the village was founded in the mid-1850s at the junction of the Illinois Central, the Michigan Central, and the Elgin, Joliet, and Eastern Railroads. Originally, the village had a strong presence of German settlers, making it one of the older German communities in all of Chicagoland. Matteson was named after the 10th governor of Illinois, Joel A. Matteson. Matteson was a small rural community for a long time. At first, the homes were all rustic log cabins. By 1860, a one-room schoolhouse served the community, with the first village hall being built in 1876. At this time, Matteson had 2 general stores, 2 hotels, 2 saloons, a shoe shop, a blacksmith, and a wagon shop. In 1889, Matteson operated 2 jail cells out of the small village hall building. The first volunteer fire department organized in 1894, and around this time there was a streetcar line that connected Matteson with Joliet, which was pretty incredible during that era considering that Joliet is 20 miles to the west. In 1890, there was even an amusement park that was built in some woods owned by the Elliott family called Elliott's Park, but the park shuttered in 1913. The amusement park was at the northwest side of the intersection of Olympian Way and Lincoln Highway. The largest picnic park in Cook County, it says. The park had a merry-go-round, a dance floor, mini-golf, a restaurant, a beer garden, and a deer farm along with a large picnic grove. A taxi provided access to the park from Matteson's business district where the train station was also located. People came to Elliott's Park from Chicago and other parts of the surrounding area. Some more fun facts about the Elliots, as they were friends with both Abraham Lincoln and Stephen Douglas. In 1917, Lincoln Highway was paved, which helped boost Matteson's economy. Here's an aerial image from 1938. Matteson was no more than just a few blocks near the railroad junction at this time. Following Main Street due north of town was where Elliott's Park was. Once again, the park closed in 1913, and this aerial photo is from 1938, but it looks like you can see plenty of remnants of what used to be Elliott's Park. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot to see here. The village continued to grow for the next several decades at a slow but steady pace. By 1950, there was just over 1,000 people in town. The village didn't start to really grow until 1960, when it doubled in size, and from there it continued to grow until about 2000, where the population has stayed stagnant, until just recently, as today Matteson is seeing its first real population decline. What's also notable is that in 1970 there was only 1 African American that was counted for in the census that year. By 1990, however, there were 5,000 African Americans living in Matteson, and today, 80% of Matteson's residents are African American. Locally, Matteson is known for being predominantly black. Other things to mention about Matteson includes how it was once referred to as the Crossroads of America, just like hundreds of other cities throughout Illinois and Indiana. Matteson justified the name by being at the crossroads of the Lincoln Highway and the Illinois Central Railroad. Initially, it was Henry Mahler that helped bring the railroad through the area that today is the village of Matteson, and he even operated a small cheese factory. Additionally, the Sauk Trail passes by just south of Matteson, which is an ancient trail that stretches from Detroit to the Quad Cities. The trail is thought to have been carved out by mastodons thousands of years ago. Later on, it was used by Native Americans, and today, most of the Sauk Trail's original path is a paved highway. This is 216th Street, and amazingly enough, many of the buildings along this 2-block stretch were built anywhere from 1860 to 1900. With a little bit more effort, I feel like Matteson could make this a real destination for the far south suburbs. They should totally scrap those plans for redeveloping the old Lincoln Mall site and just put a giant paintball park there. They should put the real investment efforts into their downtown area. Not that it looks ugly or anything, but with a little bit more life here, I feel like that would do some great things for the village. Well, people, it is now that time. What did we learn in this video? We learned that you can't always trust a municipality with extremely high taxes, just like how you can't always trust someone who takes UFO classes, but you can always trust Chris's livability score.
Education.
High schoolers in Matteson attend Rich Township High School. To my surprise, the school has below average proficiency in math, reading, and science, but it's not as poorly performing as some of the other high schools in the area, specifically to the east and northeast. Still, they're not that great. It gets a 6 out of 20.
Crime.
Crime isn't a big issue here. It gets a 17 out of 20.
Downtown.
It's okay, nothing terrible, nothing great. Would like to see a little bit more life. I like the collection of older buildings and how well they've been preserved over the years, but the city should be focusing their investment efforts around the downtown area, not the Lincoln Mall area. They should just suck it up and take the L on their failed retail corridor. Downtown gets a 7 out of 20.
Economy.
I'm very concerned with Matteson's future. The population loss has already started, and if the estimates are correct, Matteson has lost probably about 1,000 people from 2020 to 2024. The estimates for 2023 showed a loss of about 800. Look, Cook County thinks that they can get away with these extraordinarily high property taxes, but future generations are going to see the effects of what's going on today. It's not good. Otherwise, the median household income in Matteson is above average, and the property values look good. Despite the vacant office buildings and retail properties, economy gets a 12 out of 20.
Recreation.
Recreation in this area is pretty hard pressed. There's a few parks here and there, a few softball fields scattered throughout the village limits, but the best thing recreation-wise that Matteson has to offer would be the Old Plank Road Trail, which is a pedestrian trail that cuts an east and west path directly through the middle of the village. Otherwise, Sauk Trail Woods isn't too far southeast of town, but recreation gets a 5 out of 20.
History.
The most impressive thing about Matteson's history is how well documented it is. Really, it's nothing too crazy, as Matteson was nothing more than a small village of 500 or so people that was developed along a railroad line, but the older part of town has been able to keep its character throughout the years, despite the suburban sprawl that has occurred here. History gets a 10 out of 20.
Amenities.
20 years ago, Matteson probably would have received a high score on this, but not anymore. Most of what's left in the Lincoln Mall retail area is low-end chains with maybe a few decent restaurants, but that's about it. For better shopping, Matteson residents will have to drive a few miles to the Brookside Marketplace in Will County. Amenities gets a 7 out of 20.
Cost of living.
While the property taxes in Matteson aren't near as high as they are in some of the other miserable suburbs to the northeast, they're still pretty high. If you're a potential home buyer and you've done your research on this area, it'll be hard for you to want to buy a home in Matteson when you can live right next door in Frankfort and owe less than double the amount of taxes. The taxes are truly ridiculous in the southern portion of Cook County, and I'm seriously wondering if Cook County is trying to be among the top 5 fastest shrinking counties in the nation, because if so, they're succeeding. Cost of living gets a 17 out of 20. All in all, the Chris livability score for Matteson, Illinois is 81 out of 160, putting it in the top spot out of all of the Illinois cities that I've done this for so far. More of Matteson can be seen in my second video, which will be linked down below once it's uploaded. Meanwhile, if you enjoyed this video, you might also enjoy this video, as it features the side of what was once the largest shopping center in the world. Peace.